What is going on? It is your priest, Alex, coming back at you with another video. And today we're going to be doing day 2. That's rounds 2 and 3 of this 2025 NFL mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get right into this. You guys can go anywhere that you want on the show. Within 2 clicks by going to that link tree. The reason I'm wearing a robe is because you guys don't want me looking like Goat House with the tank top on. So I was a little lazy, didn't want to throw on anything else, and well, respect the grind. All right, we're going to be lifting later. Let's recap the first round, though, and talk about some trades and then a couple placeholder guys, because this weekend PFF is adding 100 new guys. Super exciting for that, because I'm really tired of using placeholder values. So very excited to see how PFF does, because I think they've done a really poor job this year at being able to keep the mock draft database or mock draft machine up to date. I think they've done a very poor job of that. But we did have a trade. The Titans ended up trading back with the Vegas Raiders, so the Vegas Raiders could jump the Browns. Got a lot of heat here for Ashton Jeanty. I explained it thoroughly in the video as to why it's logical based on NFL history and based on the talent level of Ashton Jeanty to expect him in the top 5 to 10. And I mean, I'm going to stick to that. I know people don't like it because people don't like running back value, but again, I really do want to emphasize the fact that what we want, like, I have to sometimes try to predict reality here, and I still think Ashton Jeanty with his value is actually at my number 6 spot on my board. So continuing on, that trade ended up resulting in the Titans going after T-Mac, Tetairoa McMillan. The Dallas Cowboys ended up trading back with the Chicago Bears, so they could end up jumping both the Seahawks, the Rams, and then technically the Niners, who were also bidding up. So ended up getting our star offensive lineman. I think that's super key for the Bears to continue building through the trenches. Then, of course, we ended up having a big tackle run here. That trade resulted in the Cowboys getting Walter Nolan at 17. Now, 18, there was a good pushback there. Literally, as I was recording the video, frickin' Lenoir, he ended up getting a contract, a big one too. But I do think Javarius Ward is going to be on the outs. I know Renardo Green was brought in for that reason, but this is not Fentrell Cypress. This is, first off, a placeholder value for Azariah Thomas, who is supposed to be in this new update. Super excited for that. But he has instant chemistry there with Renardo Green, which I love. And then you also have Lenoir in there. Again, a lot of corners get injured. It's super key to have a minimum of 3 really talented corners. And, you know, that's how you consistently help out the D-line that needs help. And I just honestly still very much like the pick. Then we had Denver trading back with Green Bay so they could jump the Texans to draft Kenneth Grant. That ended up resulting in Tyler Warren going to the Broncos, which I debated Josh Connerly, but, you know, it is what it is. Continuing on, Pittsburgh traded back with the Detroit Lions so they could jump a couple teams probably going to be looking, or actually, well, primarily 2 teams looking for edge and drafting JT Tuimoloau. Got some flack here for Drew Allar, and again, I acknowledged it during the video, but these mock drafts are designed to be semi-realistic because, well, first off, you can't be completely realistic. That's, you know, nobody gets it right in the first place, but adding my special twist to it, and that's the fact that I think Drew Allar, if you are a stat merchant where you're just looking at the stats, you're going to say, oh, he performed poorly versus this, versus Ohio State, like he hasn't had a top 10 win, but wins are also team stats, right? When you end up looking at Drew Allar, and I ended up posting on my Twitter about this, showing all 22 clips of Drew Allar versus Ohio State, and in fact, in my quarterback video, which did drop like last week, where it's over an hour long, it was actually the Ohio State game that I ended up breaking down for Drew Allar. I ended up reading my own scouting report for Drew Allar based on that specific game. So yes, even with all of that included, I ended up having Drew Allar as my QB3. You want to get mad at me for it? Do all you want. If you want to drop the racist card, you're an absolute dumbass. And don't do that to yourself. It makes you look like a complete idiot because when I have 2 non-white quarterbacks above him, and I have the more popular white dudes down the board, interesting. Yeah, you look like a complete dumbass. So don't do that for yourself, as also it saves me having to call you out that way, because I love you guys, and I want to be able to have good discourse down there. But I do think that a 20-year-old who's progressed noticeably every single year has also an AFC North build and is used to playing in these climates in Pennsylvania. It just makes a lot of sense to me. And Again, 2 quarterbacks up on contract. But of course, ending off the first round, we had the Titans making a move back up with the Kansas City Chiefs to draft Luther Burden. So they ended up getting T-Mac and Luther Burden. Super excited for how that is all going to shake out. At pick number 33 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, though, that was a long-winded way of getting to where we are at right now. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention, 28 is not Jordan Hancock. It is my number 18 player on my board, and Davison Igbinosun. So those are the 2 placeholders. Again, Davison is going to be part of that new addition of 100 players this weekend. But at number 33, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars sitting here. And first pick, we end up going Travis Hunter. I think that's a solid move, especially for wide receiver with some ability to fill in at corner position at certain downs. I think that's going to be my vision for how I take him. Excuse me. I'm going to actually go after Wyatt Milam here. Now, Wyatt Milam has been arguably the best offensive lineman in the country this year. His arm length is just the concern. Like, he might end up having to kick into guard, so I'm excited to see. I think he will be going to the Senior Bowl. He hasn't accepted it yet, based off of my knowledge. Again, you guys calling stuff out, like the Lenore contract, which, yes, was during recording, but it is what it is. Like, that ends up allowing for much better discourse, but I don't think he's accepted yet. I highly doubt that he wouldn't get a Senior Bowl invitation, but I mean, if you want to go after a pure tackle, there is Jack Nelson here, which, to be fair, I do kind of, like, I can envision him in a Jaguars uni. Like, it just depends. Do you want to take a risk of him being a guard, or do you want the only guy who's a true left tackle? I convinced myself out of it. I want a true left tackle here, Jack Nelson. Right now, based on contracts, you're going to need it. So, at pick number 34, with the New York Giants, got Cam Ward at the start of the first round. I'm not a huge Cam Ward guy to the degree where I think it's like a home run hit. I do think that you need to have the right system there, but I also think he is an upgrade still from Daniel Jones. I think a boundary corner is key for this team. I think a right tackle is key. I do want to address this right now. Ben Morrison, Cam Williams, as well as Harold Perkins are not coming out in this. It's not me trying to crap on them. I'm assuming that they're going to return. A lot of them are true juniors. I think all 3 of those guys are true juniors who also will be probably wanting to redshirt to boost their stock even more. So keep that in mind. But regardless, we've got our quarterback of the future. Looking at the offensive tackles, again, Cam Williams, I'm assuming, is not coming out in this one. I think Armand Membu's a dark horse candidate for that spot, but regardless, I don't think that we can really press it right now. I do see some really quality corners here, and Chavon Ravel is perfect for this squad. I mean, 6'3", 193, high speed. If you're talking about getting a true boundary for the future to grow with Deonte Banks, this is right up your alley. And you could try to trade back and get some stuff, but again, you also have to have guys that are worth moving up for. I don't see that at the moment. Chavon Ravel is going to be my pick. At 35 for the Chiefs, we ended up trading back with the Titans at the top of the first round, or the bottom of the first round, I should say. I think they're in an interesting spot. I think they could look at defensive interior here. Got some good options. I think if Chavon Ravel were available, I think that would be one of my top selections for this team. Tyleik Williams and Derek Harmon are really intriguing choices. I mean, Derek Harmon, he's obviously been a fantastic pass rusher this year, but he's even improved as a run defender. Tyleik Williams is the higher floor guy. So I don't really think that you're in a bad situation here. I do think edge is not out of the question. You look at Donovan Naziru-Waku, and the fact that you brought in Josh Uche, it can make a ton of sense, right? You can go Shamar Stewart, which is a lot more up Spag's alley when he's at 290 pounds, and use him as a tweener if you want. And I think that actually might be an intriguing move that I kind of feel like I want to pull the trigger on that. I have yet to do it, so I'm going to pull the trigger on it, but let me know what you guys think. At 36 for the Cleveland Browns, we took Ashton Jeanty round 1. People are going to go ballistic. It is what it is. I respect it, but I feel like I backed up my choice with proper reasoning. This is also a team that I think needs to address offensive line pretty badly, and I think this is where I might try to take a shot on Armand Membu here, who's done a fantastic job. I originally had him, like, he's been top 40 on my board for this whole time. He's number 35 on my board right now. I thought he was a guard, if I'm being for real. Last year, based on his play, I thought that he would translate better as a guard. And I think that still is certainly possible, but his play as a tackle is just exponentially increased. And he's going to be a power run blocker. The system for Missouri and how they run block is complete crap, but that's a topic for another day. I think that he's the next best offensive lineman on the board. And I think it's fair to say that If you want to have an identity there, you could go after the QBs. I mean, to be fair, Jalen Milroe's here. You can develop him for a couple years, and that's going to be one hell of a running attack, Genty and Milroe. But the offensive line needs help. Again, we kind of want to go after pure tackles here, it's not going to be really a great look, and we do need to get some youth in there. I will go Jalen. I'll pull the trigger. We'll go Jalen Milroe, but I really do think that offensive line is certainly in the question. And if you are willing with somebody to go after somebody who has the ability to be a guard, then you're actually in really good hands in this draft. Pick number 37 for the Las Vegas Raiders. We ended up trading up, drafting Shedeur Sanders. I already accounted because, once again, I'm praying in that 100-player PFF dump, they end up actually adjusting for the trades that have happened, because it absolutely pisses me off when I have to go in and do it myself, and cry me a river, right? First world problems. But it is a little bit annoying because the mock draft sims restarts every day. I had to rebuild this today, and again, first world problem. But for something that there are alternatives that I could use, I debated going after mock draft database because it genuinely has pissed me off to that degree. But again, first world problems. Right here at pick number 37, I do think that edge, we might see Kuntz come back. We very well might. But when you have the option of Kyle Kennard, Donovan Ziruwaku on the board, I don't really know if I could ignore it. And I'm seeing Donovan Ziruwaku on Saturday, so I'm super excited to see him in person here at SMU. But I think Kyle Kennard is just an absolute beast. And he kind of does feel like a Raider. He's gritty. He just loves to go 100% every play. I never had an issue with his motor. And I'm not saying that I do with Donovan Ziruwaku, but I just really like what you can get out of Kyle Kennard. At 38 for the New England Patriots, I know that there were some people who had some concerns in the first round. We went after, I want to call him Will Howard, which thank God we did not. But, I actually like Will Howard a little bit. But we went after Will Johnson over Will Campbell. And I know that brought some disagreement, but actually a lot of positivity. I think this team needs to just look at going after a veteran. That's just the way it's going to roll. The cookie's going to crumble in a way that you might not like it, because Belton, I have some concerns about him as a tackle. Same thing with Membu, Cornelius. It's you're not going to get a real upgrade there. Same thing with Jonah, Emery, Wyatt. All these guys, again, Cam Williams listed for return in this. It's all these guys, I think, are going to be pretty much guards. And that's not something you take at 38. If you had Jack Nelson here, I'd be willing to listen. And again, I really like Wyatt Milam. You might be in a really good spot. Actually, this could be a good trade back spot. If we're being real, Wyatt Milam's a stud. And I do think teams that are looking for that interior offensive line talent, hell, I could even move up with the Bears, who already moved up for Kelvin Banks, and just go after Wyatt Milam here. Not going to do that, but I do think that there are teams that should be trying to address their offensive line as much as possible. And going after top tier offensive line talent, I'm looking at the Niners right here. Going after someone like Wyatt Milam would be a very interesting decision for him, but I would actually even throw Armand Membu into the equation. To be fair, it doesn't look like there's just that many teams outside of the Saints that are really hungry for interior offensive line of this tier. So, I wanted to trade back. We got to look at some weapons as well for the Patriots. Mecca Ibuka's here. Honestly, if we're being for real right now, I think that it might be BPA. It's time to go after Emeka Ibuka. So we're going to go after Emeka here. He is going to go, and we have two top-tier Big Ten weapons on the squad now with Will Johnson and Emeka Ibuka. At 39 for the New Orleans Saints, yes, again, for the Patriots, address the outside, the tackles in free agency. I think that's just going to be your best way for success. But for the Saints, I honestly think this is the prime opportunity to go after Wyatt Milam. Just a quality offensive lineman that Armand Membu, surprisingly, fits very similarly to what you got in Tali Fuaga last year. Not as good as Tali Fuaga, but that's also why you're drafting him here. This fits physical, athletic, not necessarily the longest of arms from my memory. You know what? This fits to a T. And then worst case scenario, you kick him into guard. I really could see Armand Membu being the right tackle of the future, with Tali Fuaga being the left tackle of the future. Might have been my pick there for the Jets at number 40, but in the first round, we actually ended up going after Mason Graham. And got some good pushback from my Jets fans. I love the fact that they're very vocal in my chat. They talk about how defense interior not necessarily overly valued on this team, but I do think when you have someone that is also best player available fall into your lap, you also think that this could be a new regime coming in. New regimes get very, very, very soft on their first pick. They either go balls to the wall with the QB, or they usually go something a little bit softer. You think Carolina with Derek Brown, it could end up being that way. And especially when you have a talent like Mason Graham going there, when it's a no-brainer, when it's safe, that's actually a really good starting point, in my opinion, for what the Jets should be doing. Again, Ben Morrison, Cam Williams, as well as Harold Perkins, not going to be included as coming out in this one. But for the Jets, I love Harold Fannin Jr. to the squad. I mean, I think that he's just so damn talented and deserves a lot more respect than he gets. I do think this team needs to look at a right tackle for the future. They have both their left and right tackle up for a contract this year. Olu Fashanu should be the left tackle going forward. You could talk about going after a QB here with Nussmeier. Man, I mean, this is a dream fit for Garrett Nussmeier. But I'm just like, dude, like, for the love of God, like, straight up, so inconsistent. Like, it's just not a class that I'm very passionate about at all, if I'm going to be blunt. Actually, I will go corner 2 here. I know it's going to drive Aaron Rodgers nuts, but this is going to be another placeholder value. And this is actually a player I don't even think it's on me, by the way, for why he's not on here. But Darian Porter, we actually ended up scouting him on our live stream last week, so you guys can go check it out. It was 4.5 hours. We're going to use Tony Grimes as the placeholder, but it's going to be Darian Porter, the 6'4", 200-pound corner out of Iowa State. Imagine him playing next to a 6'3", 190-pound corner in Sauce Gardner, who I don't know why Sauce has kind of taken a dip. Again, there's obviously some personality stuff there. Corners, a lot of it is that mentality that could maintain, that can like keep you great or break you really fast. And unfortunately, it does look like he's right now not at the top of his mental game. We'll see if he bounces back from that. But regardless, Reed's up for a contract, and so this is not going to be Tony Grimes. It's going to be Darian Porter, corner out of Iowa State. Pick number 41 for the Chicago Bears. Went Kelvin Banks in round number 1. I'm low-key very tempted to go after Wyatt Milam here. Now, we have Tyler Booker, and we could just create an unbelievable fortress. Very easily could create an unbelievable fortress. But Wyatt Milam, I mean, this team has multiple offensive tackles pretty much playing everywhere as it is. I think you have to go after consistency here. And I love Karan Amagaji, but you just got to go pedal to the metal. By the way, we did do a trade up where we ended up moving back into the third. And rather than having 2 second-round picks, I know people didn't like that too much, but I do think that the value you got was exponential in the fact that you got someone who I think is a true tackle and someone who you could trust for going forward. We are going to potentially trade back. I'm looking at really quality edge rusher. Donovan Zuwaku fits this team very well. If you're looking at a Darrell Taylor vibe step of player, Donovan Zuwaku's right up your alley, and it is cheap. It's a great player. We can either trade down with a team that needs one, which I'm not seeing a ton of them that would be on the market for this. To be fair, we did go James Pierce, but we could go Donovan Zuwaku as well for the Carolina Panthers. We've done trades with them before, but we're going to just do it here for the Bears. I don't think that you're going to get too crazy, and there's a lot of guards that'll be available there in the second. At 42, we got the Dolphins, and they went Will Campbell early on. They just need consistency on the offensive line, so I think that's actually a really good get. I think going forward, you could also look at a boundary wide receiver like Eli Maynor here, because Io Maynor has been fantastic. His offense throws like 3 yards a game, and he gets 2 yards a route run. It's just like, this is literally that meme of the Bugatti in that little shack, that little trailer house. And what's it called? It's not called a trailer house, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's just like, it's so sad. And he has such a great vertical ability. I do think that it should be at least considered here. However, I really like the second safety aspect. When you can get someone of Nick Eamon-Warry's size, who easily could go in the first, by the way, 6'3", 330, or 330, that'd be ridiculous, 230, who runs in the 4.3 range, I think that is just so damn special that it's hard to pass on. You guys know where he's at on my board. I actually have him all the way at number 19 overall. I mean, somebody who is ridiculously built probably will go in the first round, but it's just hard to find a place for him to go. Pick number 43 for the Dallas Cowboys. This was part of that trade. Well, actually, this was not. So we ended up giving up that third round pick with that trade with Chicago. At this spot, you could easily look at running back. We went defense interior in round number 1. I also think that you could look at a boundary wide receiver from Stanford. Fehoko didn't work last time, but I think Io Maynor is a far superior product. And I don't think Jonathan Bingo is going to be making an impact. Just simply put, I don't think that we are in the right spot for it. I think you need a bigger boundary receiver because I just don't really see it, the contested catch ability outside of CeeDee Lamb. And even with CeeDee Lamb, you kind of need to continue helping. You don't need to always scheme guys open. Sometimes it's nice to be able to have that reliable guy in a one-on-one. And even though Elick is at 53%, it's 53% with a pretty garbage offensive system. So shout out to him for being so damn talented. I'm going to be going after that and seeing how the rest of the board falls. At 44 for the Indianapolis Colts, we took edge in the first round, and that did ruffle some feathers. But I do think that, Odeyingbo, Pay, both those guys are not. I think to be able to have a quality defensive line, you need to have 2 possible edge ones. I think you need to have a guaranteed edge one as your edge one. And then your edge 2, and I think that obviously this is an ideal situation. You think about the Steelers. Highsmith, he's kind of on most squads, he could compete to be an edge 1. But maybe he's not a pure edge 1. When you have that hybrid where it's like, man, if you just drop him on a squad, are they going to be challenging for it? If the answer is yes, then I'd ignore edge. If you have a quality edge that, you have someone like Pay and Odeyingbo who, they're solidified edge 2s. That's where if you have Scorton on the board, you're like, man, that guy could be a real edge 1 on a team. And then it's a high value position. You could save a lot of money by being able to have someone on a 5-year contract next to someone who you're on 4 more years of a rookie contract. I think that's just a way to build a lot of success by asset management and organization. But again, I want to emphasize Ben Morrison is going to be returning in this one. I am looking in the corner room, and it sucks I went already after Darian Porter because that would be one of my dream picks for Indy. I already used 3 placeholders on corners. You guys know how crazy I get for some of these corners here. But I do think that defensive back is very, very underrated. And speaking of underrated, Quincy Riley gets no respect. I mean, I ended up watching him versus Miami where he got cooked a little bit, sure. But it's not really his fault. He's a great athlete. He does have high-level zone instincts. He's just a smart player who's a big hitter. I think that he gets a lot less appreciation than he deserves. But I also think that it's more realistic for a linebacker to go in this range with Jihad Campbell, who's been doing a fantastic job. I mean, especially this past week versus LSU. He was one of the best defenders on the entire team. He's 6'3", 244 pounds. He's just an enforcer, and this team is looking for one of those guys to be the true leader in that second level, and Jihad Campbell absolutely could be. At number 45 for the Cincinnati Bengals, I think this is a prime opportunity to go after defensive interior. And when you're looking at it, you got Tyleik Williams here, who I think is perfect, as well as Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon's going to be far more, even though statistically he is at that 8% stop rate. I don't necessarily fully trust that. I think Tyleik Williams, 8.2, is a little bit more trustworthy. Looking at the interior offensive lines he's gone against, you could argue that both of them are relatively equal. But I will say the pass rushing upside of Derek Harmon will win me over in this equation. I still, though, believe a lot in Tyleik Williams. At pick 46 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is like a chill spot to be. They went after Jalen Walker in round 1. I talked about linebackers coming off the board, and technically he is one, but I drafted Jalen as an edge rusher. Here we're going to be going after another linebacker, and I think that it's very feasible that both of the linebackers from Bama are the first 2 off the board. Deontay Lawson has been one of my darlings, so to speak, from the beginning. Extremely athletic, very underrated in coverage, and, looking at his build, they had him at 230 last year, and we all knew it was bullshit. It's funny. Most of the time, colleges like to overweigh players or say that they weigh more and just to make them look good. No, Deontay Lawson, they said he was 230. It's he was pretty clearly 240, 245. This dude's a beast. You guys need linebacker help, and now you got edge and linebacker. Those are 2 key positions with great players. At number 47 for the Seattle Seahawks, we went after offensive lineman in the first with Arianti Urzuri. You could even look at linebacker here because Dotson was actually released, which is so weird, but it is what it is. And you could look at someone like Barrett Carter here. I just don't trust the linebackers at this spot. You could look at the safety room, and there's a lot of really good ones. And I just think that Lathan Ransom, when healthy, is the best safety in the class. Like, pure safety in the class. It's him and Nick Eamon-Wari. But he's easily the best box safety in the class. But if you want someone with range who can deliver a hit stick but also get a ton of INTs, this is your guy. Xavier Watts is your guy. And he's 6 foot, 200 pounds. I mean, he's skilled. He has a ton of experience. Like, he is your guy. And I know that safety is just going to be a crucial part of the Seahawks. It's been a big part of your mantra for a long time. Xavier Watts, to me, is going to be that guy that I feel a lot of confidence in. The Panthers at 48, I trust Jalen Coker and Xavier Leggett to be a big portion of the offense. So that's why I'm a little bit more relaxed when it comes to wide receiver. But I do think this is a prime opportunity to go after excellent value. Jalen Royals is out with a foot injury on the year, which sucks, but he just accepted either today or yesterday for the Senior Bowl. So we're going to be able to see him in person. That's going to reboost his draft stock. He at one point led all of college, if I'm not mistaken, with his touchdowns. I think it was a year before, though. Regardless of that, because he had 15 the year before, there's a point where he was. I saw a Field Yates tweet. That was about it. But this is just a player who's really special. I mean, he's great after the catch. People say he might fly in the 4.3s. This is just someone who can complement Jalen Coker and Xavier Leggett extremely well. And that's like having a young trio of receivers gets me excited. I think it's worth it. You're pretty much getting a better version of Jonathan Mingo at 48. At pick number 49, speaking of Jonathan Mingo, we have the Dallas Cowboys again. This was via that Chicago Bears trade. And I just personally don't see a ton of value. You can go running back here because we're looking at Marion Hampton. I think that's that range where you could justify it. And to be fair, Marion Hampton's been going off, and he easily could be that type of guy that you really, really want. I do see Marion being a good candidate here for the Broncos. Like, there's a lot of great choices, and you can't go wrong. Quinshawn, I don't know what's up with him. You got that hand surgery, but I don't really think that should affect your vision at all. Maybe it affects like how comfortable you are, but I just personally don't see much of a need for that. So looking at the other players that are available that could inquire a move up, again, we talked about Wyatt Milam earlier, and I honestly think that the Niners could be in a prime position to snipe him just because it's best player available. So are there any teams that are looking for a top-tier interior offensive lineman? I'm looking right now at the Texans, and this is like literally candy for them because first off, you have Tyler Booker on the board. That alone, having that selection rather than having to deal with the bullshit of having leftovers, I think that alone will justify a move up. And I also see some teams in here that will be looking for some interior offensive line talent technically. And I think that's worth it. I really do. So we're going to see a very, very small move up here from the Houston Texans. And like, will it generate enough buzz to be able to, make a massive difference in the Cowboys draft for this time? Probably not. But I do think that if you can get 165, and then, you'd probably go 121 at this point if you're going to get like 171 to balance this board out a little bit. Feel free to adjust in your own mocks. It's not going to affect this one. But the Houston Texans move up, and it's between Wyatt Milam and Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker's been a move I've been making a lot of times for the Texans. I think it's a great move. Don't get me wrong. But I will go Wyatt Milam this time because I think that tackle flexibility is just that special. And he jumps. D'Amico jumps his forward team in the Niners, where I personally think that you can go after Tyler Booker and train him to be the future at left tackle. Like, I personally think that you're getting yourself like the best player on the board. I think Wyatt Milam would have been more intriguing for this team, but I do think that Tyler Booker might be the best return on investment based on what's available at pick number 50. At 51 for the Broncos, we ended up going after Tyler Warren, which is awesome. I don't really see a true left tackle on the board that I necessarily trust. It sucks, but it is what it is. But wide receiver wise, you could easily go after, a Ty Felton here, Ricky White, but I mean, also, I want to throw into the mix Jaden Higgins, who's 6'4", 215 pounds, and could be your future version of Cortland Sutton here. But, like, let's take a little bit of a detour. I do think the Broncos could be looking at a top-tier running back. Estime, I wasn't the biggest Estime guy. I'm just going to be for real. And I think Amari and Hampton at this point is best player available, and we have to start thinking that teams will take running back in the second. That's just very likely. So we're going to have to start forcing it more than what I would prefer. At 52 for the Cowboys, we ended up acquiring that, mid-range for that fourth round pick. And so I personally feel comfortable at this point looking at running back here with Quinshon Judkins. He's had a little bit of a slower year, but we know the talent's there. The vision's beautiful. He has the explosiveness. There's just something that's going on. And he started out the year red hot, and the moment Oregon came around, that's where it started to get a little bit wonky. But I do want to shout out a lot of other backs here. Jonah Coleman's been doing a fantastic job. Jonah Coleman actually has jumped up noticeably on my board. I don't know if you saw him earlier, but he struggled very recently. Where the hell's Jonah? He's at number 44 on my board. Like, I love him. I really do. I think the dude's a stud. So, honestly, Jonah could go above Quinshon. He's been healthier this year. And he's been consistent for the past 2 years. I know you guys are going to say you could have got him in the third round, but I personally think that there will be a couple of running backs that go in the second. Jonah Coleman is one of those dark horse guys that just doesn't get enough love, so I'm going to be the one to give it to him. Pick number 53 for the Falcons went edge in round number 1. I think that wide receiver 3 is definitely on the table. I mean, going after Ty Felton at this point is ridiculous value. I also think, though, that corner is as well. And I'm going to do another placeholder player here. And let's see, who's not going to make it on here? Dorian Strong. So he's going to be my placeholder for a player that I actually quite like. That's going to be Domani Jackson. He's going to be very, very fast. Very fast. And he's somebody who, his grade, he's not top 40 on my board. I think he'll end up being close to that 50 to 60 range. But, he's definitely somebody who I have a lot of potential faith in, and especially with the mentorship of AJ Terrell, could easily see him being a very good pick. At 54 for the Cardinals, it did not fall very well for them in the first. They ended up going Kamen Rucker, which I love Kamen Rucker, so no need to shit on him. We end up being blessed by the fact that Tyleek Williams just ended up slipping. And so you get yourself a very reliable defensive interior to go forward. At 55 for the Los Angeles Chargers, we ended up going after the cute pick in Colston Loveland. And now it's time to address some more spots. And I actually really like the idea of going after someone who's going to be a nice boundary deep threat, but also a nifty route runner. And that's going to be Ty Felton, wide receiver out of Maryland. He's just been turning it on this year, and it's been absolutely tearing it up. He's at almost 1,000 yards already. He started out the year red hot, and then he's had some fluctuations, but I still think he is one of the best receivers in the entire country. At 56, we got the Green Bay Packers, and you guys know what my dream pick is for him. I love storylines, and having Jonas Savania here to play center for you, because that is what a lot of people think he should play. Connor Rogers during summer scouting ended up saying that was a high likelihood position for him to go. But pairing him up with Jordan Morgan just sounds so damn good. And having them on the offensive interior and having them on the same team again just is like poetic justice. So I personally am going to assign it. I think that's the right move because building through the trenches, both through Kenneth Grant and Jonas Savania, is going to be your best way to continue having continual success. Pick number 57 for the Washington Commanders. We end up going after edge in the first round. And I know you guys really like a deep threat. And you know what? I actually like this guy almost on par. He's number 47 on my board. Almost on par with what you guys have we're talking about in Isaiah Bond. It's Ricky White. Ricky White is such a fantastic receiver. And he's like great on special teams too. I mean, look at that yards per route run as it is. But I mean, he's just done a fantastic job. His drop rate's a little bit high for me, but he also has now had 2 quarterbacks this year. So I'm sure that the passes do feel different than what they did. I'll like pretty much drop it 1% in my head just because I'll give you 1 free drop. So keep that in mind as well. But Ricky White is just fantastic. You know, looking at what we did, LT Overton and Ricky White, that's a difference maker on offense and a difference maker on defense, and even a difference maker on special teams. So all 3 faces have been affected by only 2 picks. That's how you run an organization. At 58 for the Baltimore Ravens, corner certainly still on the board here. And I honestly think that you guys have the flexibility to see if Tacario Davis can work as a safety. I think that that safety role outside of Kyle Hamilton still could be up for grabs. And so I'm taking the best player available. That's Tacario Davis, who I certainly still love. It's just he has his respective issues. And I think that it's worth taking him, especially before the Steelers, where I'd be very intrigued to potentially take him there. But at 59, I've depleted a lot of the options that I love for Pittsburgh. We took Drew Allar in the first round, and yes, to a lot of people's dissension, again, it's a mock draft that I want to put my own spin on. It's a player that at his age, with his progression, I have a lot of faith in him, nearly as much as the guys going in the top picks. Now, I would say that my comfortability, if I were taken out of the media realm, would put those top picks closer to where Drew Allar was, rather than the other way around. I don't want to put Drew Allar up high. He's more of a late first pick for me because he's young, has a ton of talent. And I think that's the right move for Pittsburgh. I also think it's the right move to be able to go after Jaden Higgins here to be your Mike Williams of the future. We communicated that need, and he fits it to a T. He also, Iowa State, he's used to playing in that type of little bit northern climate. So I really love the fact that you're not going to have someone who's playing in Miami the whole time being able to experience a snow game for the first time. This guy's a real badass. And Jaden Higgins, he's just so damn reliable, and it's kind of the thing that we don't have in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be nice to see it. At 60 for the Buffalo Bills, we ended up going after Isaiah Bond in the first round, a little bit of a dark horse pick. And it ended up being a good move because we ended up taking a lot of the receivers I like for this team. And now you got guys like Landon Jackson and Jack Sawyer on the table that just fit this team ideologically to a T. I'm not passing up on that. And he's just a super high floor player that's a good run defender as well. I don't think that you could really go wrong by drafting Jack Sawyer. At pick number 61 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we ended up drafting Princely Umanmi-Ellen in the first round. Here in round number 2, I think that this guy's a little bit small for what Howie likes, but I think that the influence of Kellen Moore, not Howie, I was saying like Nick Sirianni, but just the organization, you look at like what they value in terms of blocking, but I don't think Kellen Moore would be able to look his coordinators, his coaches in the eyes if Harold Fannin were here and they pass on him. I genuinely think that, he actually is a pretty tenacious blocker. You add 10 pounds to this dude, I don't think that you're going to be regretting it. Harold Fannin Jr. is just a stud, and you just can't let him pass up. He's someone who I wouldn't be surprised goes at the end of the first round based on the value of after the catch ability that Harold Fannin possesses and a lot of people value. Pick number 62 for the Buffalo Bills, gone Jack Sawyer, gone Isaiah Bond. And now I actually think linebacker is a pretty key position for this team to target. And there's a lot of good options to go after. I could see Jay Higgins being the equation. He's just so athletically limited. Like, that's his problem. He's like really, really athletically limited. So I do have my issues there. I do like Barrett Carter here, though. I think Barrett Carter is one of the most underrated players. And, you just don't get enough love. The more I talk to myself, though, the more I realize that we need to move the heck out of here. There's not enough value at this pick for them specifically. And I'm looking at guys like Quinshon Judkins, and I'd be scared of the Chiefs potentially being able to pick up a guy like that. Like, is there a way for us to be able to get a team that is looking for their running back of the future to be able to move up for them? I don't see the Raiders having enough value on it, so it is kind of out of striking range for Quinshon. Let's look at some other positions, though. Are there any offensive linemen that need to be taken? Not at the offensive tackle position. I do think offensive guard-wise, you certainly could be trying to pitch guys like Donovan Jackson and Tate Ratledge. And the Lions are sitting right here as well. Are there any teams that want to go for the interior? And actually, I do think the Jaguars are a really good candidate for it. So, and you could also look at the Browns. The Browns could go after offensive line. And you could also say, hey, Patriots, do you want to take Donovan Jackson, who's kind of going to be a guard tackle hybrid? Like, there's certainly a lot of teams in here that at least would consider it. But I think that the proximity of the Jaguars here would be a little bit more enticing of an offer. So the Bills are going to make a deal with them. And look at that. Right on cue. So for such a short range trade, I think that it would be like a pick 175. And like, I think I would maybe go 137 and I would end up tossing in like a 204 or a 169. Feel free to do that as you please, but it's not going to affect the mock draft. But for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we got a tackle at the top of the second here in Jack Nelson. And so I think this is going to be a great opportunity to give him a nice, consistent running mate here in Donovan Jackson out of the Ohio State University. Revamp that offensive line in literally the blink of an eye. At 63 for the Lions, we're going to go after the player I literally just highlighted as the two guys I was thinking about, and we're going to go after Tate Ratledge, guard out of Georgia, because I don't want the Chiefs to consider it either, because I also know that the Chiefs are having one of their top players on their entire team up for a contract this year in Trey Smith. So Trey's going to need to get a new contract, or he might get franchise tagged. I think that's the more likely choice, but it still is certainly worth discussing. I do think wide receiver is one of the dark horse positions for this team. And you look at a guy like Trey Harris. Do you have a build like Trey Harris on this team? I don't think so. And I think that there is going to be some value in a massive receiver out of Ole Miss who really can just turn it on and just be pretty much your MVS down the field. Like when Rashee Rice comes back, you're going to have him, not Hollywood Brown. Technically, he was on a 1-year deal, but Hollywood Brown on like pretty much in the sale department there in Xavier Worthy. That's what my comp was for him, I believe, coming out. But Trey Harris is going to be the guy. That's the bottom line. I think that getting a quality wide receiver at this place, especially when I would say the Giants would be the next team I'd consider him for, is going to be worth it for the team. Get yourself a big playmaker here because we didn't really do too much on the offensive side so far, so I think that's going to be worth it. At pick number 65, we're back with the Bills. We got some extra draft capital down the line. Ended up talking about linebackers. I do still want to look at safety, and you got to take Kevin Winston at some point. Even though he's been out for this year, I'm still going to go after Kevin Winston. I don't really trust DeMar Hamlin to be like my safety number 1 or safety number 2 or even safety number 3 for that part. So I think going after a player like Kevin Winston makes a lot of sense. At 66 for the Giants, we've gone after corner. We've gone after quarter. We've gone after the quarter and cornerback. So I think at this point, this is where we can take a shot on a right tackle. Again, Cam Williams considered returning in this. Otherwise, I would not necessarily be thinking about, or I would definitely have taken him a long time before this. I think Blake Miller is just a pure right tackle, high floor dude that, at this point, in this spot at 66, I do see a lot of teams that are still looking for potential tackle help to swing on a tackle. I am going to take that tackle, though, with Blake Miller there out of Clemson. He's a good player. He is a good player. I think that he gets very underrated. He's number 50 overall on my board currently. And yes, there are players on here that are still being reevaluated and dropped, but, it might even boost him up a little bit more. So, Blake Miller, though, he's just like the boring guy, but sometimes you just get boring, and boring is good. But 67 for the Chiefs. If Quinshon Judkins is here, it's kind of hard to say no. I mean, you got Trey Harris, you got Shamar Stewart. I think now is okay to say we're going to go best player available, and we're going to let a player who's damn good, who slipped into our lap, end up being the pick. At 68, the Cleveland Browns are sitting here, and we've gone after quarterback. We've gone after running back. I'm going to look at wide receiver because we end up losing Amari Cooper. Elijah Moore is up for a contract. And so we're looking at a lot of really good talents here. A lot of very underrated talents as well. And I think Xavier Restrepo is he's the definition of consistency. I mean, he's just every single week, this dude just balls out. And he's so good after the catch as well. We're going to go after Xavier Restrepo here. At 69 for the Kansas City Chiefs, we've gone after running back, wide receiver, edge. Let's get some defense interior punchiness in here because you got TJ Sanders, Dante Corleone, like Aeneas Peebles as well. A lot of really good interior defensive line talent that needs to be selected, needs to be. Shamar Turner as well, very underrated. He's gotten his numbers up so much since the start of the year, and it's mainly because he's an edge rusher. But I do think that TJ Sanders is going to be my pick here. He's 6'6", is he 6'6", 290, or is he 6'4"? I'm tripping. He's 6'4", 290. I was thinking of Shamar Turner, who I believe is 6'6". Who am I thinking of? Oh, it's actually literally the guy that we ended up drafting. I'm such a dumbass. This guy's 6'6", 290. Where's he at? Shamar. There we go. There's the 6'6", 290. But TJ Sanders is going to be the guy. He's a freakish build, but I think that TJ Sanders has proven over the years to just be so damn reliable that it's just like rinse, wash, repeat, man. At pick number 70 for the New England Patriots, we have gone actually after corner. And then did we also go wide receiver for this teem with Emeka Egbuka? I already know people are pissed. They want the offensive tackles. Again, just not a very good class for it, guys. Just go to free agency. Don't force it. Like, you can go Anthony Belton here, but, I mean, the Patriots have a lot of young guys that are developing. This isn't like a team where I would necessarily push that type of pedal. But I'm actually going to look at edge rusher here because I think you need it. I do. And I'm looking at Josiah Stewart, over 25% pass rush win rate. This guy's been great. He's 6'1", 245, which is the only reason he's here. Don't really overthink this one too much. You got rid of Uche, replace him with another top-tier Michigan talent. Pick number 71 for the New Orleans Saints. We went after edge. We went after interior offensive line, And so, I mean, technically, we actually went right tackle. We could go after another interior offensive lineman here in Jaden Roberts that is just pure power personified. But I do think going defensive interior, we were just talking about him earlier, is the right thing to do. This doesn't fit the physical profile in terms of height-wise. 6'1", 290 is a really unique build. But these people's just been balling the F out, man. And I think I want to give him the love he deserves. We're going to take him here to the Saints and just add even more punch to that defensive interior. Pick number 72 for the Las Vegas Raiders running back easily should be the pick, but strategizing this out, we've already gone after a quarterback, and then in the second round, double checking what we did, we went after edge. So wide receiver is a big need, like a massive gaping need. And there's a lot of really good players here. I think one that's just super rock solid and consistent is Kyron Lacy. I mean, this guy just is the definition of consistency. Not sexy, but just damn good. At pick number 73 for the Carolina Panthers, we went Jalen Royals in the second round, and then in the first, we went after James Pierce. Those are the two positions I think are the massive needs for the team. Now we could kind of address what's best left on the board. And I actually want to go right down the street and look at Mansour Delane. I don't think that corner is the biggest issue for the Panthers, but I also think that's an area where we can easily improve. We're going to go after Mansour Delane there. At 74 for the Washington Commanders, we've gone after edge. We've also gone after wide receiver. Looking back on our second round of move, Donde Está, we have Ricky White. So it's Ricky White there as well as edge in the first. And I'm just double checking on LT Overton. Now, I actually do think that you could go after Emory Jones here because he's a quality guard. He will be a quality guard. And that left guard spot, Allegretti's done a good job. He has. I want to just find a way to get this guy with Jaden Daniels again. It's just not going to happen. I do think that there is a potential chance for us to get another boundary corner like Quincy Riley here because of the fact that Marshawn Lattimore is not necessarily super healthy. And so I'm thinking Quincy Riley is a primary pick for me. I'm also looking at Landon Jackson. And Landon Jackson, combined with LT Overton, both at 280, I don't think that many offensive lines can handle that size. We're going to go Landon Jackson here. At 75 for the Chicago Bears, we went after offensive line as well as, did we go after an edge? We did with Donovan Azuruwaku. I told you guys there was going to be offensive line talent here, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of very, very good players. And, I mean, there's really, really good center talent. He's also in Georgia. How is he not listed on here? The Georgia center is a good kid. Parker Brailsford is a very quality interior offensive line, in my opinion. I don't know why he doesn't get any form of love. I mean, dude's allowed 4 pressures on the year. I mean, simply put, yeah, don't look at the stats, but he's a little bit lighter, but this dude's an absolute beast. I think that he's a stud and gets literally no respect. And it is quite depressing. If I'm going to be honest, it is very depressing in that regard. But I do think that there is the chance where we could just end up sniping Emory Jones here and having Karan Amagaji be our future at backup more so to fill in, which at 75, where Karan Amagaji was taken, it could be good to have this battle here. And honestly, let's take it. Let's do it. Because I have full faith that Kelvin Banks is a left tackle. So he's going to be there. I'm not afraid of having interior offensive line competition. And I honestly would be willing to put Emory Jones at center if need be. The dude's a stud. It's just, this year he just did not progress the way he needed to. At number 76 for the Indianapolis Colts, we went linebacker in the second. Here in the third, we're going to be going after safety. And we're going to go after Lathan Ransom because I am in love with Lathan Ransom. When healthy, he is the best safety probably in the class, especially in the red zone. Not many guys are as talented as Lathan Ransom is in the red zone. Bengals, speaking of a team that got a safety, double checking that we did that in the first, which I do believe we did with Malachi Starks. Malachi Starks and Derek Harmon, that's just such a quality 1-2 punch. You could look at running back talent for the future, so you don't need to rely on Zach Moss. I look at Caleb Johnson here, and I think that's a really good addition, really quality addition. I also look at tight end, and Jake Brenningstool's a stud. I don't know why people don't like Jake Brenningstool. Like, he's just a real quality, like really quality player, but, you know, I'm not going to judge. Edge rusher, though, Ashton Galote is someone who consistently, and I mean consistently, applies pressure on the pocket. He has that size that the Bengals do love as well, and it does give you an out potentially for Hubbard. So I'm going to go after it. I haven't done it yet before, so I'm excited to do it now. At number 78, we could have ended up getting Danny Stutzman here too. Get a couple linebackers, technically draft 3 of them. Not going to do that. But I do think wide receiver is not out of the realm of possibility here. And I mean, looking at what I would prefer for you guys to have, it would be a little bit of size and contested catch ability. Like, that is kind of Kobe Hudson here, 6'1", 200. It's not going to be like, you're not going to get your 6'5" target here. Like, that would be, if I ended up going Jaden Higgins in round 2, that would have been a far more effective solution. But I do think continuing to, I mean, especially at UCF, which is pretty damn close to Tampa, if I'm not mistaken, this is just someone who is a very consistent, reliable receiver. Year over year, he's probably going to have 1,000 yards, so he'll get better every single year as well. You know, solid hands, reliable hands, and someone that can continue growing with Jalen McMillan as well, towards being that young core of the receiving group. At 79 for the Seattle Seahawks, we've already gone after safety. We've already gone after tackle. I do think that interior offensive line still is on the table, and I'm willing to take the risk on Jaden Roberts at this point because he can end up actually being a future right tackle if need be as well. He just needs, apparently someone ended up saying this as well, he's had some like hand issues or like some arthritis issues, which I understand completely if like that's been really like essentially it's extremely painful. I really hope he gets the care he needs, and that because his talent is through the roof. I wonder if that really is messing with him mentally on a down-to-down basis. I hope he does get the care he needs. I know a lot of people have had arthritis, a carpal tunnel, etc., and you know the surgeries for it not 100% effective, but sometimes they really do help. And I'm hoping that he gets the care he needs because if he does and he comes out, this dude's going to be an unbelievable talent. It's just, you know, people are sleeping on him because, well, he's just not having a great year. Pick number 80 for the Los Angeles Rams. I will look at defensive back for this team. In the first round, we ended up going after Josh Simmons. Pretty sure that's my constant pick for him. Yeah, Josh Simmons. And I honestly might look at Denzel Burke here. It's too good to pass up on him. Jedi Barron's here, but I also need that slot flexibility, and I don't trust that. We'll go Denzel Burke. I love Quincy Riley as well, but I feel like Denzel Burke, you know, apart from that Oregon game, he's been far better than a lot of corners in this class. Bears at 81. So we've already gone after Emory Jones. We've already gone after Donovan Ezirawaku, as well as Kelvin Banks. It's a good group of guys. Really good group of guys. Now, I also want to look at wide receiver here as someone who could fill in that slot. I do think that we are going to be a little bit limited in that capacity. There is a wide receiver I really, really like in Ja'Cory Brooks, but doesn't really fit the role that's going to be left vacant there. Defense interior-wise, I do think Dante Corleone has turned it on this year compared to what he was last year. So I do think I kind of need to give him the nod at this point. And I think that it's just good business to do so. At 82 for the San Francisco 49ers, we went after offensive line with Wyatt Milam. We went after corner with Azariah Thomas. And now we're going to go after defensive line. And it's none of these guys that are mentioned here. It's actually going to be, we're going to use Colin Oliver as the placeholder, but it's going to be Mike Green out of Marshall. I love Mike Green to death. He's not listed here, but he should be. But bottom line, he's an absolute stud. Doesn't get enough respect. He's 250 pounds, a really flexible, good player. I mean, the Niners need to get some extra edge help, and so I'm glad that I can give it to him. At 83 for the Denver Broncos, what have we done for them? We got tight end in the first, and then what did we do here in the second? Running back with Amari and Hampton. So tight end, running back. I think that's a good foundation to bring And then now I'd actually be willing to swing on a potential talent here like Anthony Belton, but I'm trying to remember. You guys can correct me on this. I'm pretty sure Sean Payton was around when they drafted Terron Armstead. And Terron Armstead was, one of the most athletic freaks around, and that's going to be what Charles Grant is. Charles Grant is just unmatched, like complete savagery in terms of athleticism at the tackle position. And, just someone who's going to be a really big project, but it very well might yield some unbelievable results. At number 84 for the Houston Texans, we went after defensive interior. We went after a guard. Those are the key positions. I know that wide receiver actually is a very dark horse position as well. And I want someone who's actually going to be a burner with the ball in his hands. I want someone who's a great after-the-catch threat, and that's what Sam Brown brings to the table. Sam Brown is just so dynamic as an actual ball carrier. He did it at Houston, and he's going to, well, there you go. You also had him at Houston, and he's been doing it very well at Miami. He's just under the radar because Xavier Restrepo is just someone who gets a billion targets a game. But this is somebody that is going to test very well. And then after the catch, I think it's a role that you don't necessarily fully have yet, and it's an area where you can really grow. At 85 for the New England Patriots, we've gone after edge, we've gone after wide receiver, and we've also gone, I'm trying to double check that we went after wide receiver, because I remember this, we went after wide receiver, went after corner, and went after edge. So, we also got 2 Michigan players, so we got some chemistry right there. I think that now is the time to just roll the dice. This is where we could just say, okay, we'll take Anthony Belton and his monstrosity at 6'6", 330 pounds, and see if he works. Worst case scenario, he's going to be a very quality impact guard and the run game. So we'll see what happens there. But in the 3rd round, I think it's worth taking the shot on a true left tackle that, worst case scenario, could be a big impact guard. So at number 86 for the Arizona Cardinals, Danny Stutzman's still available. I personally think that we might have to pull the trigger on that. We got Garrett Nussmeier here on the board. I'm having Garrett Nussmeier slip. I'm just having the QB slip. I have my concerns. I do. But I am starting to see teams like the Saints that want to go after these guys. I do. And I think that it's the prime opportunity for a team like the Titans as well. The Titans have gotten aggressive. They've gotten very aggressive. And they might want to get aggressive here because we're talking about a couple of teams above them that will be looking for quarterback assistance, and it might be the right time for them to move up. So we're going to be doing it because I also think I'm not very comfortable with the Cardinals. Also, very limited picks right there. The Titans, not so much, right? We did that trade back. We got a good amount of draft capital, right? And so I personally feel that 86 to 96 is roughly pick 133. And I think that's great for you guys because it fills in a little bit of a gap right there. You could toss in 254, but it's not going to make a difference. If I'm just going to be for real, it's not. But we'll do that just to assuage your concerns. And a team in the Titans that have gone after 2 wide receivers is now going to be going after Garrett Nussmeier here out of LSU. It's worth taking it because he's probably going to go back to school. Let's be real. But he's just super high, super low. That doesn't work in the NFL. Just simply put, it doesn't work in the NFL. But this is where you can take the shot on it and see if it can really stick. At 87 for the Chargers, we went after tight end in the 1st, and we went after wide receiver in the 2nd. We're going to go after interior offensive line here in the 3rd. And I really love Jake Slaughter, but I also am just a sucker for Parker Brailsford, who, he's just so talented. Got multiple scholarships as a pure wrestler, which whenever you hear wrestler, you know that teams get all excited because that's something that a lot of teams look for in their interior offensive linemen. It's that core strength and that ability to really move another man of size. Pick number 88, speaking of a team that went after center earlier, we have the Green Bay Packers who went after Savania as well. We actually went after a center and pretty much a nose tackle, so to speak, in Kenneth Grant. So we got a lot of meat. And now we're going to go after best player available. That best player is Jahdae Barron, who's a fantastic corner with high zone instincts, but he is extremely twitchy, not afraid to go against a run, and Halfley will love that. At 89 for the New Orleans Saints, this is going to be Quinn Ewers. At this point, it's just worth taking the shot on him. Like, you just got to test it out, man. But we, so far for the Saints, have gone after edge, we've gone after interior offensive line, and interior defensive line. At pick number 90 for the Baltimore Ravens, we've gone after offensive line. We've gone after defensive back. Technically not a corner, but also defensive back. So I do think this team's doing a great job overall. They don't really need too much, but the addition of Deontay Johnson makes me think that Evan Stewart could be a dark horse pick to fill his role, but also Deion Burks. Deion Burks is fantastic. I'm glad that he came back from injury, and he's like pretty much the lifeblood of his whole entire offense. So I'm actually going to throw a little bit of a dark horse pick here in Deion Burks, who, isn't he on your screen? I feel like he's on the screen. So no, he's at 54. So he technically was, yes. But continuing on at number 91, we got the Steelers. We've gone after a wide receiver with Jaden Higgins and quarterback there with Drew Aller, which, again, I don't have any regrets about. I know some of you guys don't like it, but I love you guys. I'm going to let you guys think of what you want. We're going to go Xavier Nwakpa here, though. I know that Deshaun Elliott's been doing a great job, but I also think that we need to continue investing in youth. Keon Saab could be a DeMonte Casey replacement, to be fair. I just think Xavier Nwakpa is too good to pass on, and, I mean, he looks good in black and gold, man. So we're going to go after a quality defensive back that can almost act as a quasi-linebacker at his size. I mean, he's 215 at 6'2". There's some linebackers in college that aren't even that, so I do think that he could end up even bulking up and being an interesting hybrid linebacker. At 92 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we went after guard, we went after tackle, we've gone after wide receiver / corner. Let's go after a pure corner as well, and now we can address it with Quincy Riley. At number 93 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we've gone after tight end as well as edge rusher. We are going to be going after linebacker here with Danny Stutzman. Not the most flashy linebacker on planet Earth, but he's proven this year to be very good at run defense. Tons of stops per game, and like that's just been consistent year over year. And he's just a good quality linebacker to have for depth. And I think that's going to be really crucial at pick number 93. At 94 for the Cleveland Browns, we've gone after running back, we've gone after quarterback, and I believe we've now gone after wide receiver as well. Let's continue addressing the offense by going after offensive line here. Let's go after the highest floor player on the board, and that is a Johnny Cornelius. At number 95 for the Detroit Lions, we've gone after guard as well as edge rusher. We're going after center for him. And I love Jake Slaughter. I think this dude's fantastic. He has some issues in terms of handling speed, but I think that he re-anchors himself very well, and I think he's one of the most underrated players in the entire class. At number 96 for the Arizona Cardinals, we've gone after defensive interior and edge, per usual, and now let's look at some other positions to address. So I do think being able to have a future running back like Caleb Johnson would be a good addition for sure, but I also do think that it's like, I don't see it for the team. I don't see it being the massive push. You could look at a taller corner here. I'm looking at Jason Marshall, for example, who is going to be at that 6'1" frame. He's out for the year, though, so I highly doubt that he'd end up being a third-round pick. So there's certainly some question marks there. I don't really know. For the Cardinals, I actually kind of want to get a flexible offensive lineman, and there's not really one that is listed here. And it's kind of stupid that it's not, but a player I really do like, and I mean, where is he at on my board? At number 34 is Marcus Bowe. Sometimes, no, this team wouldn't even be going for a guard, though. Man, this is just a weird spot for the team to be in. I will go running back because I think it's best player available. And you got RJ Harvey here, who's really solid and consistent. Ollie Gordon and Caleb Johnson. Honestly, Ollie still has that top end ability to really make someone miss and take it to the house. Oh man, I don't know. This is such a weird pick. It's a weird pick. I'll actually look at the linebacking core though. I will like defer to PFF on this one. And Barrett Carter's here. I'm happy with Barrett Carter. Vikings at 97 went after one of my favorite players in the first, Davison Igbinosun. This is where I feel comfortable going after. We're going to use Jaeger Burton as the placeholder, but Marcus Bowe, right tackle, but future right guard out of Purdue. He's a guy who's a big friend of the show. Obviously love him to death, but he's had an up and down year in terms of being a tackle. Definitely could be a very quality guard. At number 98, this is where I'm going to go after wide receiver, and I'm going after a big deep threat here. And so we're going to select Beau Collins as the placeholder because I'm just not selecting Beau Collins in the first 2 days anymore. It is Ja'Cory Brooks, wide receiver out of Louisville, 6'3", about 190 pounds, a deep burner, has some drops, but I still think that this dude is an absolute freak show. At 99 for the Dolphins, we went after safety. We went after offensive line, double checking that we went safety. Yeah, Eamon Wari. I think that you could try to address pure tackle with the development guy, but not much of a need there. I'm going to make a trade. I'm going to have the Pittsburgh Steelers move up. We moved back, and so we're going to move up now. And I think for this pick, we might go 130 and flip it for like maybe 155. I think that's fair. I think that's perfectly reasonable in that aspect. I'm curious if it doesn't like any of these, but 99 and 155 or 128, 130, I think is a respectable difference. If you want to toss in a future 7, feel free to do so. But I think that way the Steelers move up and they make a really big impactful move here. Like we already gone quarterback and wide receiver. You got Drew Lar in there. You got Jaden Higgins. Recently, we just ended up drafting Xavier Nwankpa. But I think this is a perfect location for Caleb Johnson and Arthur Smith's system. So we're going to go after him. At 100 for the Los Angeles Rams, we went after tackle and went after corner. Those are the big positions to address. And now it's time to look at good value here. Could look at wide receiver for sure. But I also do think that we might be looking at, you could try to get a depth edge here. Could get another corner, but I will look at the linebacking group. And Jack Kaiser and Jay Higgins kind of are the linebackers I would expect for them to be looking at. And I really still love Jack Kaiser. We're going to rock with him. At 101, and finally ending this off for the San Francisco 49ers, are there any quarterbacks? We do have Carson Beck here, and technically the Rams could have been looking for Beck, but I'm looking at a team that might just want some consistency with a backup. At this point, the Giants have selected their quarterback. The Titans moved up for theirs. The Browns got theirs. The Raiders got theirs. The Saints even got theirs, for Christ's sake. So I honestly could see the Dallas Cowboys wanting to get their own guy at this point. I don't think that'd be a big stretch, but I also think Miami would be a great team to move up here. We ended up just moving back, but now that we acquired 2 4th-round picks, this is just going to be the prime opportunity to now essentially flip it for these right here. And then we could end up getting maybe something like 192 in return. Again, feel free to do the math on your own. I'll do 192 here to make the deal fair. But the Dolphins end up essentially grabbing future capital as well as a little bit better clustered talent there for them to draft their quarterback here in Carson Beck. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. See you on the far side.